Normally my videos consist of lore, talk about all sorts of goofy shit, but in today's video I want to depart from that a little bit and talk about something that I'm increasingly seeing as the days go by. Back when Elden Ring first dropped, there was this honeymoon period where everyone loved the game, 10 out of 10s all across the board. And then when some people made some reviews like Joseph Anderson, which got over 3 million views, the sentiment towards the game changed and everyone all of a sudden seemed to hate Elden Ring. That might sound like an exaggeration, but back then you could not go anywhere in the YouTube sphere without someone saying Elden Ring is a shattered masterpiece, Elden Ring is a flawed game, Miyazaki may as well go and hang up his hat because he's made an absolute shit game. And they were everywhere and everyone seemed to buy into it, when in reality, only a month prior, your mom, your grandmother, hell, even some unborn fetus within the womb were all praising Elden Ring. And unfortunately, the same fate that befell Elden Ring has befell Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, and I really want to delve into it today because it's blown my mind. And just a little TLDR, I am going to be talking about some of the reasonable points some people have made before going on to the absolute batshit insane points that a lot of people seem to be believing and saying. But before we get into that, a small percentage of the people that watch these videos are actually subscribed. Now I'm not going to ask you to subscribe right now as that's a bit goofy in my opinion, but if you do end up enjoying the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribe as it greatly helps the channel and it lets me know you're enjoying this style of content. I'm also curious to see what you all have to say about this. Please don't hold back, I am really curious to see what the sentiment is towards Shadow of the Erdtree at this very moment. Without any more dilly-daddling, please sit back, relax, grab some succulent and juicy and tender prawns if you want, and enjoy as we delve into the crazy situation Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree is in. One of the biggest reasonable complaints is performance issues. I believe mainly on PC, but there has been some on Xbox before Xbox's ones were fixed. Those performance issues are a real issue. Spending £40 or depending on your currency, however much, and then not being able to really experience the game fully due to performance, being angry about that is completely reasonable and is completely justified. It's an issue that needs to be stomped out really soon. The last reasonable complaint I can think of is Radhn Promised Consort. Now he's my favourite boss in the entire game, hell, probably in the whole entire From Software series. But his hitboxes, as has been discovered in the last few weeks, are way too large for the swords he carries, and that leads to some attacks hitting you when really it should not hit you whatsoever. It doesn't even collide with you. Now onto the takes that really inspired this video to begin with. Honestly, for some of these, I can't tell if they are done simply to boost the YouTube algorithm or if people genuinely believe this. I can't tell with some of these. And starting off with the first take, I want to go full throttle, no hold barred, just ram into this shit. And what we're going to be ramming into is the accusation that the Shadow of the Erdtree's map is empty. Shadow of the Erdtree has been accused tons of being empty and just running around different sceneries. I think this is absolutely batshit insane. The main reason being, a lot of these quote-unquote empty environments serve a story purpose. Now, if you don't look into the story, hell yeah, I could understand maybe to a degree why you'd think that. But even in my experience, without even considering the story, it was far from barren. There is stuff around every single corner. I find it really ironic with these critiques about this element, considering when Elden Ring first dropped, everyone complained about there being stuff everywhere and a lot of reskinned stuff. So in Shadow of the Erdtree, they've took all that reskinned stuff and instead merged it into better and bigger dungeons. The dungeons, like the caves and chasms and catacombs, they're all about 4 or 5 times bigger than the ones in Elden Ring's base game. And each one seems to have very unique environments, very unique enemies, and to top it all off, a really cool boss at the end. I find it really ironic that a big criticism of Elden Ring's base game was the amount of reskinned enemies in these dungeons, how short they were and how much quote unquote filler they were. And yet From Software's listened, fixed that, and now that they've actually fixed it, it's another problem. It's like From Software can't win. They address an issue, fix it, and then that fixed issue becomes a new problem. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next game they go back to the original Elden Ring formula, and then that's going to be a problem again. From Software just can't win, and it's just a classic case of people never being happy. Now that we've talked about the areas that quote unquote don't have much stuff when they actually do, I want to talk about some areas that actually don't have much stuff in it, and it serves a really big story purpose. For example, stuff like the Finger Ruins, the Shaman Village. These places serve a purpose to tell a story. The Shaman Village is the hometown of Marika. To serve the story purpose, it's abandoned and desolate. It's meant to be like that, with like one item, two items, which show Marika's backstory. The Finger Ruins are places that link heavily to Mattia, another key important detail of the story, which links back to the origin of the fingers and everything to do with that. These quote unquote desolate places serve a really big key purpose to the story. Now, if you just want to go fight bosses and fight enemies, I can understand why you would think this. But you've also got to consider, before putting these opinions out there, that Elden Ring is not just a fighting game. Its purpose is not just to go and fight bosses. Within Elden Ring is a rich and intriguing story, which for a lot of people is one of the main captivating points of these games. It's not just about fighting the bosses, and these areas serve to enhance the enriching lore. And just the nail in the coffin for me, personally, it took me over 100 hours to beat the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. It was not a quick experience, and I enjoyed every second, and there was tons to do. Being a bit of a lore buff myself, I do want to talk about some criticism I've heard about the lore. I've heard a lot of people say that the whole ending makes no sense, that it shouldn't have happened, and it's just this thing that's been shoved into there and it was never planned. This can't be further from the truth. Inside the DLC, we learn what Melania whispered into Radhn's ear, which was in a trailer before Elden Ring's base game even released. The idea for Shadow of the Erdtree and Miquella's point of view has been in this game for 3 odd years. It's not something they've just come up with on the spot. There's a lot of hints within the base game about Miquella's evil intentions and the wrongdoings he's secretly doing. I want to give you another perspective. I want you to look at Elden Ring like a history book. It's not going to tell you the full story because some of these events happened thousands of years ago. Nobody alive, apart from the demigods and all those kind of godly people, are going to know the full story. And we don't get to talk to those kind of people. Or at least the ones we do get to talk to don't give us the full story. Try and think of it like Fire and Blood, George R.R. Martin's book. There's 3 perspectives in that book, and all different sides are biased. Each perspective has their own agendas and points of view. We can't really know what happened in the lands between thousands of years ago until we're given the context in the DLC where we can slot in the puzzle pieces. This is, in my opinion, how Miyazaki intended the story to be presented, but I feel like it's gone over a lot of people's heads, and instead they've said it's lazy storytelling, which I really don't understand, considering this DLC has some absolutely incredible lore, which in my personal opinion has some of the best lore in From Software's entire catalogue. I honestly feel like it's Groundhog Day with this next opinion. Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree is too hard. It is hard for being the sake of hard. I feel like that scene out of Spider-Man where it's all like, how many times do I need to teach you this lesson, old man? That is how it genuinely feels, because we have this discussion every single time a new From Software game comes out. Everyone seems to be absolutely laser focused when they can't beat a boss that it is unfair. Now, I get it. When you rage and you're annoyed at a boss, letting out your frustration is a normal reaction, but going as far as to call a boss unfair to do with that is not right at all. A big complaint I've seen about Mesmer's attack, where he does the spear attack, you can definitely dodge that. It's completely dodgeable. Once I'd figured out the boss, I dodged it every single time because there is an attack pattern, just like Melania's Waterfowl dance. Everyone complained about that, but there is a very good way to dodge it, albeit it is quite hard. Now for the complaints to do with Promise Consort Radhn, I talked about that earlier in the video. To a degree, is justified. Some hits are undodgeable. There are some hits that should not hit you, but as we found out in the last few weeks, they hit you regardless due to the wrong hitboxes. But still, a lot of that boss fight, personally to me, it was only a few attacks that felt unfair to dodge. A lot of the attacks felt very fair. Now that could just be my experience, but I spent a lot of time in this boss fight, and it was only that 3-hit combo that really felt unfair to me. I've heard time and time again about the combos being an issue to a lot of people, and I'm going to say something really controversial, but I actually quite like these combos. Maybe I'm alone in this, so please, if I am, let me know, and please feel free to whip out the dunce hat and just shove me in the corner. But I really like these combos. A lot of them to me feel really unique. And for most of these combos, 99.999% of these combos are dodgeable once you understand them. From Software's bosses have always been about learning the move pattern and then using that knowledge to beat the boss. The same thing applies with these combos. And to me at least, when I was fighting these bosses and when I'd learn these combos, the feeling of learning those combos and successfully dodging that move gave me a feeling of elation which was almost comparable to that of beating the actual boss. Delving further into this, talk about attack windows after these combos, are we playing the same game? I used a variety of weapons all throughout the DLC. To begin with, I was using a great axe, but towards the end I actually started using a lot more lighter swinging weapons. No matter what, you can get a hit out on these bosses. Doesn't matter about how heavy the weapon is, they're tuned for that. You've got to think of it like this. You can have more attack windows with a lighter weapon than a heavy weapon, but a lighter weapon is doing less damage per hit. The heavy weapon does more damage but is slower, so you're going to be able to get more damage off from that one attack than a few attacks from a lighter weapon. Another big criticism I really wanted to talk about was how the DLC ending was quote unquote lackluster. Now, considering the build-up of the story, there was no other way that this could have gone. The DLC ends with us slaying a god and Radhn. Now, there could have been an interesting ending if we could have aided Miquella. Even that though doesn't make much sense considering Miquella wants to control everyone and yet we're free of his control. This is the last song in this story, or at least this part of the story, and when we kill the singer, why should we expect something grand to happen? It's like the final DLC of Dark Souls 3. You fight Gale at the end of the world, and when you kill him there's nothing else here. It's a barren ashen wasteland, and you kill the last voice. You know, it's not meant to be a grand crescendo out. It is the end, and you are either committing the end or stopping the end from happening. And I don't think there could have been any way they could have made the ending even more enriching than it was. The true ending cutscene of Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree was the boss. The flashy cutscene most people wanted was promised consort Radhn. In conclusion, Shadow of the Erdtree is in my opinion one of the best DLCs From Software has ever created. And while there are some criticisms, that doesn't take away from the fact that to me, this is up there with Bloodborne The Old Hunters. Do you feel the same? Please let me know down below, as I'm really curious to see what you all have to say. If you did enjoy the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. We are so close to 10,000 subscribers, and I just want to say thank you so much, genuinely from the bottom of my heart. It means more than the absolute world to me. I'm not going to dilly-daddly anymore because that's how these videos, intros, outros always seem to go. So please, don't you dare go hollow, and may you find your worth in the waking world. Goodbye everyone.